Good evening, I'm Mike Naso with the latest video update on Hurricane Dorian and the rest of the tropics. We have quite a few features out there right now as we approach the heart of hurricane season. On the far left side of the screen, you can't see it, is Tropical Storm Fernand, which is getting a little stronger. That will make landfall in Mexico, south of the Texas border in the next 12 to 18 hours. Doesn't look like it'll have enough time to become a hurricane, but still heavy rainfall for them. Obviously, we have our diligent Hurricane Dorian there, moving to the north-northwest, paralleling the Florida coast, and it's going to come very close to South and North Carolina over the next 2 to 3 days. We have a tropical system near Bermuda that we're watching very closely. If that does become a storm, it'll likely move away, as well as this system, which is a tropical depression. It is forecast to become a tropical storm and head over open waters. The bigger concern down the road is this tropical wave that'll leave Africa, with some computer models showing that one could get much further west towards land. We're going to talk about all of this tonight, but we're going to start with Hurricane Dorian. Dorian's at 28.4 north, 79.0 west, winds still 110 miles an hour. It's a Category 2 hurricane, moving north-northwest at 6, so it's still moving slow, but 6 miles an hour is better than the stall we saw the last 2 days. And the pressure's been hovering around 959 millibars roughly. We have those hurricane warnings out for the areas of South Carolina and North Carolina, as well as the Florida coast. We've seen winds gusting upwards of 50 miles an hour on the Florida coast. You're in the tropical storm force winds. However, there is a buoy just to the northeast of the center that reported very high seas up to 30 feet and gusty winds gusting up to 90 miles an hour. It's treacherous out there on the ocean. And all of this energy is going to come very close to the coast by Thursday night, right off the coast of, say, Wilmington and areas of Cape Fear, and then making that move by Friday night very close to areas of the Delmarva Peninsula there. Right offshore, there'll be heavy rains and heavy swells, so you're going to want to watch this very carefully. Here's the latest satellite imagery of Hurricane Dorian. What a different looking storm. You can see that the center has been eaten out of it by eye wall replacement cycles and fluctuating intensities, but it still has that powerful Category 2 look. And there's a lot of energy, as I mentioned, that's headed up towards the north-northwest, and that will turn, but it's going to come very close, if not over, areas of North and South Carolina. So if you're in those locations, you want to listen to local officials in case those evacuations come your way, or areas of flooding. Remember, the rainfall is going to be prolific if it gets too close to the coast, but even if the eye stays offshore, you could have that heavy rain shield coming in. You can see the radar right now. Here's the radar out of Melbourne, and again, there's the eye of Dorian. Finally left those poor people in the Bahamas, and now it's moving north-northwest. Obviously, the inner eye here that was once over the Bahamas has become a much larger eye, and so it's kind of a fat hurricane now, headed on north-northwest. Now, that's good as far as intensity. It's probably not going to be able to strengthen into a Category 4 or 5 storm again. However, that means the wind field has expanded, and we're now getting hurricane force winds 50 miles away from the center, and if it gets too close, we could see those hurricane winds on the coastline of Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina over the next couple of days. But finally, Dorian's got that kick in the weakness, and it's going to eventually move on up. Now, if you're in the Carolinas, you'll start to get those tropical storm force winds probably between late tomorrow and through Thursday. That seems to be the time frame here to when you'd have the best chance. And as you go up the coast, obviously, it gets later and later. And again, that's going to be one part of it. The other part of it is going to be the rainfall. You can see now this is through the next 5 days. Where Dorian is, we're going to get very heavy rain, 10, 15 inches. And a lot of this heavy rain, 6 to 10 inches, could expand into areas of South Carolina all the way through the Outer Banks of North Carolina, with some heavy amounts 4 to 6 inches further north, even into Virginia. So you guys need to remain very vigilant, very vigilant as far as Dorian is concerned, with the prospect of not only that flooding from rainfall, but the onshore flow and the threat of storm surge. Very, very serious. These are the European models, and you can see they bring it very, very close to Georgia and South Carolina. Some are over South Carolina or North Carolina. So we may still see an official landfall. Remember, A hurricane makes landfall when the center of the center crosses the coast. So even if you're in the eye wall, that is not a landfall until the center of that eye crosses you. So the question is Dorian actually going to make landfall, or is he just going to kind of waddle his way along the coastline? We just don't know yet. But regardless, a very powerful hurricane that's going to be impacting the southeastern U.S. over the coming days. I did want to touch on Fernand, Tropical Storm Fernand, up to 50 miles an hour. The Air Force has been flying into that one too, and realized it's been strengthening, moving slower than Dorian, west at 3, and you can see that it's expected to go right into northern Mexico, so it does not look like it'll become a hurricane, but it could get up to a high-end tropical storm. You can see the wind field here is pushing into Mexico, and that pressure is dropping slowly, so as it moves slow with that rainfall, that's the main concern with Fernand. Areas of, say, 6 to 15 inches over this region of Mexico here, although across the river into Texas, up towards even areas of Corpus, you guys could see 2 to 4 inches of rain because you have a rain shield of a tropical storm moving onshore. So even though the center of, I almost said Dorian, Fernand, is moving into Mexico, you'll have the rainfall to the north of that. You could see that pretty well on the radar imagery here out of Brownsville. The center of Fernand is right in this area here, so it's not very well defined. We don't see anything like an eye or an eye wall, but a lot of heavy rain. Brownsville, you just got a good rain band, and there's another one that's coming ashore now with more just offshore. So there's going to be some squally weather and the threat of severe weather as these feeder bands come in around the tropical storm and drench you. But thankfully it looks like you will not see a direct impact from the tropical storm. Even if it budges a bit to the north, it'll probably still come ashore in Mexico. But remember Tropical Storm Hermine back in 2010? You guys got some bad flooding in Texas, and that made landfall in northern Mexico. So you're not out of the woods yet with Fernand as long as the heavy rain continues in Texas. You can see the satellite imagery as the sun went down. We have Tropical Storm Fernand here on the left, headed into Mexico, and of course the donut Dorian there sitting off of Cape Canaveral. And again, there's a mid-level ridge here of high pressure, and that clockwise flow is what's keeping Dorian moving in this direction towards the coast of South Carolina, and Fernand moving in this direction towards the coast of Mexico. So it's always about the high pressure and what kind of troughs and short waves mess with them to slide the high pressure away so these storms can move. And right now, Fernand is moving into Mexico. Tropical Depression 8, as of 11 p.m. Eastern Time, Atlantic Time as well, was at 19.1 north, 32.8 west. Winds were 35. It's moving northwest at 8. It's likely to stay out at sea for the remainder of its time. However, it will likely become a tropical storm, and the next name is Gabrielle. So we'll probably see this become Gabrielle and stay out at sea and probably not even become a hurricane. However, the system behind it that is yet to leave Africa is of a little bit more concern to me because you can see there's Dorian, there's Fernand. We have this feature near Bermuda which may or may not develop. That's 50-50. That'll move out. But this red area here south of our depression, this is a tropical wave that'll move off Africa over the next couple of days. And the reason I'm worried about it is because some of the long-range computer models show that we're going to have to deal with this. This is the GFS. Now, this is very long-range. You can see Dorian goes right into the Carolinas and up. Gabrielle heads out to sea. And then we get this new system from that tropical wave right into the Bahamas and into the Carolinas again. Now, that's just one model run, and it's 300 and some hours out. But the Bahamas and the Southeast do not need another storm. And this is not Dorian. This is the tropical wave that's going to leave Africa in the next couple of days that the long-range GFS model is showing developing sometime about a week from now, and then by, say, 300 hours becomes a strong hurricane. And again, the European model doesn't do much with it, but 12 hours ago the European model had it as a hurricane approaching the islands in about a week and a half. So keep an eye on that wave over Africa because hurricane season 2019 ain't over yet. I'm Mike Naso, and I'll see you next time with more on Dorian.